Welcome to The Lock Shop with Nielson and Hustler, powered by Coolbet Canada.
All right, Lock Shoppers, it is go time. Welcome to the program, coming at you from the Grey Cup Festival in Vancouver, counting down to Sunday's 111th Grey Cup between the Argos and the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. We will hit that and the offerings over at Coolbet as we get through the program, but it's Friday, and you know what that means. Best bets for the week. Huss here with you, along with JBM and Patty. Fellas, what is up? How are you doing?
I'm doing well, Huss. I was actually just peeking through the old D-Gen den there, and it looks like your guy, Mark Scheifele, was the reason they came up just short last night on a 22-1er.
No,
they needed a Scheifele point. Yeah, I was just looking at Duck Dad posted the ticket. They needed a Scheifele point in that Jets game, and it just wasn't meant to be last night for the Den. So I'm sure they'll have a couple more for this weekend coming up.
Yeah, the Jets proved that they are, in fact, somewhat human, dropping their second game of the season, now 15-2 on the year, to the Tampa Bay Lightning. Well, I will apologize to the Den on behalf of the Jets. They've been very good to bettors so far this season. Little bit of a reality check for the club last night. I know we'll get into that coming up on Winnipeg Sports Talk, but a close one. Busy night last night in the National Hockey League, and of course we had I'm sour. I said to you guys before we came on, I'm very sour about that Washington Eagles game. You know how much I can't stand the Eagles. I was on Washington. We saw the line actually move right before the game started. Got it at plus 4.5. And, Pat, it really seemed like Washington was in a great spot, not just to cover, but to win the game. And it all sort of fell apart in the late fourth quarter.
First and foremost, that game sucked. Like, that game was awful. It was brutal. It was absolutely brutal. And on, I believe it was Wednesday. Yeah, Wednesday when you were doing WST, getting ready to head out to the Grey Cup festivities, I told Matty Owanek that I was actually going to bet on the Eagles, that I thought that maybe the Eagles aren't as fraudulent as we think they are. And I think that the Commanders aren't as good as we think they are. I think after seeing last night, at least one of those things is right. The Commanders are not where we think they are at all. That defense is suspect. I think Daniels is still hurt. He was not moving around in that pocket nearly as good as he was at the start of the year, holding on to the ball way too long. Some really suspect play calling by Cliff Kingsbury. Drink if you ever heard that one before. But I think the Commanders are just a team that at the start of the year, and full credit, because look at where they're coming from. They're going to be a very good team. They will be a very good team. They're just not a good football team, or not a very good football team right now. They're not bad. They can take care of business against bad teams, but as soon as they got to start punching above their level, that's where they're going to be. On the flip side, though, the Eagles, I do still think they're fraudulent. I still think they're probably better than what I thought they were, a team that was going to miss the playoffs. They probably win the division, but I still don't think this, man, they found a way to win, and I know good teams do that, but it was an ugly one, and there are a lot of concerns in certain areas. The biggest area is coaching. I feel like this team plays with their food too much and just doesn't have that killer instinct to put teams away.
Well, it'd be interesting to see how this kind of progresses through the second half of the season. I mean, Washington, with what they've done so far, put themselves in a great position to, at minimum, be a playoff team. But, Jake, that was really Philly sort of grabbing that division by the neck and establishing themselves as the number one team coming out of the NFC East in all likelihood.
Yeah, I think that one of the telltale signs, too, I was trying to see if I could get the exact numbers, but the time of possession last night was a huge difference. Like, Philly really controlled the ball. They just weren't finishing drives, and I think it just caught up to Washington late in the game. Like, you saw Barkley break a couple there. He had the big run to score the first touchdown to go ahead, and then they got the ball right back. They drove it right down again, and Barkley drove another huge run in and really put him away. So I think that time of possession really got to the Commanders there late in terms of the defense. And, it was a bit of a grind. And back to Pat's point about Jaden Daniels, like, some of the throws he was choosing to make, like that interception right after the Barkley touchdown, was not pretty. Like it was a throw and not even close, really, to the receiver. Like, and a lot of the throws at receivers' feet, like just not little uncharacteristic to what we've seen early in Jaden Daniels' career, and it might have something to do with that rib injury.
Well, it was notable for a couple reasons. I know you had a nice little, you needed that late garbage time touchdown by the Commanders. And we did get the octopus, which was the touchdown and the 2-pointer by the same guy. I haven't seen that in a little while. But anyways, Philly gets a big win. And now we move on to the rest of the slate in the National Football League. We'll get to the best bets in just a minute. Quickly, I do want to get to the Grey Cup before we sort of dive in and get lost in the weekly slate of the National Football League. Latest at Coolbet is Bombers 9-point favorites. And Pat, this was interesting. And we talked about it earlier this week. Opened at 7.5, immediately got bet up to 10.5. And then, maybe not surprisingly, it's settled right in the middle the last day or so, right in between 7.5 and 10.5. 9-point favorites for the Bombers in the big game on Sunday.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy to see. Like, again, I full transparency, when we opened up the line, it started at 10. There were a few other sports books that did open up the line, and it actually opened up at 7.5. So it's kind of been all over the place. No surprise that we're starting to see it come down, but on Wednesday morning, I open up Coolbet. I see the line, it's at 9.5. I text Matawanek, let him know we're talking about what we want to talk about on the show. And then when noon rolls around, it's already dropped half a point. But we haven't seen movement since there. That leads me to believe that this is probably going to be locked in at a 9-point game. Despite where the money's coming on either side, I think this is where it is. I think this is what Arbuckle, at least what the book believes, that Arbuckle, obviously it's going to be just too tall of a task for him to overcome this Bombers team. But as I said on Wednesday, the Argos have had success against the Bombers this year. Their most recent win was the last time the Bombers have lost a game. Mind you, Chad Kelly was under center. But earlier this year in July, when Chad Kelly was still serving that suspension, they did have Arbuckle and they did win. So if the Argos are going to want to stay in this game, it's going to have to be on the heels of their defense. And this is why I think that the book doesn't believe that can happen in a big game. They have too much trust in the Winnipeg Blue Bombers playmakers, in the coaching staff, and also ultimately the culture for them to come out on top here with a convincing victory.
By the way, a couple things coming out of last night. First off, shout out to Coolbet for basically giving us all free money on the McDavid 1K. Jake, you'd sent me that text. I was here. I told Remus, I'm like, dude, check this out. A point and a shot for McDavid has been boosted up to even money. Like when I got on, it was minus 109, but still, it was normally a minus 556. So it was a nice little advance heading into the weekend from our friends at Coolbet. Of course, they got it done. So we got that. And shout out to anyone in the lock shop, anybody in the chat that rode with me on Brady Oliveira at 14-1. It's still one of my favorite bets of the entire year because we got on it at 14-1. And then when the lines returned after that week of games, it was plus 140. I don't think we've ever got in at a better time, right in the nick of time for the Brady bet. But Brady's got it done. And now, fingers crossed, we can cash those Bombers futures at a pretty nice number when we got in mid-August when the team was still struggling to come back from that tough start. Jake, I think this is your area of expertise. Yesterday we went in, we got the passing props, rushing props, receiving props, still waiting for the touchdown scorers. That'll be up at some point. But I need to lean on you as a big Jonas Brothers guy for a little bit of insight into these halftime markets. Iwanek and I did some Jonas Brothers analytics yesterday on the program. We're breaking down most streamed songs on Spotify, their biggest hits. But do you have any thoughts on the first song played at halftime and their finale, their last song played during the halftime show?
Well, listen, I think the bookies might have nailed it here. Celebrate's an interesting one because you look at – I was watching TSN last night, watching Thursday Night Football, and every time that Grey Cup commercial plays and they're talking Jonas Brothers, Celebrate is the song playing over the background. So you wonder, like, what does the Grey Cup know? What does TSN know about the set list? So, I mean, I think the bookies nailed it. It looks like, Celebrate and What a Man Gotta Do both at the same number, plus 275 as the opening song. I grew up on a Disney Channel. I watched the Disney Channel all the time. Burnin' Up was a huge song. SOS, also a huge song. Those are the top four there as the first song. I don't specifically have a play, it's hard to say. You'd want to see maybe something with a bit more juice get played. Sucker isn't a bad one. It's a pretty upbeat tune. That's plus 575.
That's their number one streamed song, Sucker. We were kind of leaning on that for the finale there. I'm not sure if that is their biggest hit, but certainly, again, we were running the numbers yesterday, and if you go to Spotify, that's the most streamed song. So that's going to get played, I would imagine. I have a hard time not seeing it. Just the question is whether it's the first or the last song. I was leaning towards Burning Up, mainly because that was the song that I was the most familiar with of their catalog. But it does seem like something that would be sort of a good way to get into it, and it is at 4-1 right now.
So I will say this, and this is some of my favorite stuff here. First and foremost, we also have odds on the national anthem, and that's usually my area expertise. When we're getting close to the Super Bowl, I'm in the annals of YouTube looking up cell phone recorded footage of national anthems. You
with
can't
a stopwatch.
You can't see anything. You cannot see anything out there for this year's anthem singer. So kind of going blind. So really got to dig in my heels with the Jonas Brothers. I agree with Jake. I think Celebrate with the trumpets, with the way that TSN has been really pumping up the pregame show. That seems like the heavy favorite for a reason. Also, did a little research. In 2024, there's actually a website called setlist.fm. And on average,
yes.
Celebrate was the number one song that the majority of the set list for the Joe Bros opened up with. So never like betting the favorite, but sometimes we've talked about this with the Gatorade color or with any of these other novelty bets. Sometimes you just got to go with your gut. Sometimes you got to plug your nose and go with the favorite. And I think Celebrate is the odds-on favorite. But I do agree with you guys. I think either Sucker, because that's one of their big ones, or I could see them closing out with a classic and Burn It Up at plus 400 as well.
There actually is one new Jonas Brothers market right now at Coolbet, and it's actually a total songs performed on stage over under 4.5. I was kind of thinking about the way things went, and I was thinking it would be 4, but once you actually get into their catalog, they have so many songs and hits. I wouldn't be surprised if this actually goes over, even if they don't play the songs in the entirety. I mean, a little bit of a medley banging from song to song to song. I think I'm actually going to hit the over 4.5 on this.
Yeah, that's great. I think we're seeing that a little more trend in these halftime performances. Yeah. Jake, correct me if I'm wrong, and I know some people will catch heat here for me even putting Green Day and Jonas Brothers in the same sentence, but I believe last year for the Grey Cup performance, Green Day kind of did the same thing where it was a little bit of a medley of songs. They didn't play everything, but they played a bunch of different songs. Jake, I don't know if I can't really fully remember. Maybe that's something you and I got to do a little research before the kickoff on Sunday.
Well, I think Matty Iwanek said it yesterday. I think they end up getting to 5 songs last year. And I mean, listen, whether you're a Green Day fan or Jonas Brothers fan or both, I think both of those bands have enough in their catalog to get to 5 songs, no problem. Like, I don't think you're going to be sitting there watching the Jonas Brothers and say, I don't recognize this song at all. I think they got at least 5 songs that you're going to be like, oh, yeah, I think I've heard this before. Huss, I got to ask you, though. Are you a Kevin, Joe, or Nick guy? That's what everyone's dying to know.
Okay, I guess I'm thinking I'm a Joe guy.
Okay.
Kevin is he sort of the older brother?
Kevin's the oldest. Yeah.
Okay.
Nobody's a Kevin Jonas fan.
Yeah, I was just about to say.
Poor Kevin, man.
Joe's like he's the front guy, right? And then Nick is sort of the
Depends on
young.
who you ask.
Really?
I mean, Nick and Joe both had their own solo careers, and then they'll all come back together now as the Jonas Brothers. But
No solo
I don't
album
know.
for Kevin Jonas.
I don't, not that I know of, at least. I don't know if I've dived deep enough into the Kevin Jonas catalog, but I've always been a Nick guy growing up, so I was just curious where you came out on that.
You know what? I'm really warming up to the Jonas Brothers. I'm legit looking forward to seeing their show, and even more so when we're just counting song for song, and then the huge pop when they play their fifth song, and we get the over 4.5 songs played by the Jonas Brothers.
There's an old adage. Life is too short to bet the under on how many songs the Jonas Brothers are going to play at the Grey Cup halftime.
Oh man! All right, let's get into the games for the weekend. Man, we got a pretty interesting slate. Still, I guess there's a few teams on the bye this week, but we do have a pretty nice run of games highlighted by the Chiefs and Bills. What's the number at that right now? I'm just going to run down these lines actually for everyone to see where we're at. So it was plus 2.5. It's now 2 for the Chiefs. And the plus 110 is now plus 106. Bills minus 125. Obviously, we're going to get to that game. But off the top, Packers laying 5.5 on the road against the lowly Chicago Bears. The Lions, 13.5-point home favorites against the Jacksonville Jaguars. That one could get out of hand. The Dolphins, 7-point favorites at home against the Raiders. The Rams laying 4.5 on the road against the Patriots. Jameis Winston revenge game. Cleveland at the Saints. Cleveland -1 right now. Basically, this is a pick 'em. I mean, it's minus 110 and minus 108 for the Saints on the money line. So that's a pick 'em. The Jets are 4-point favorites at home against the Colts. Jets should not be 4-point favorites against anyone. And then you've got the Baltimore-Pittsburgh game. This is really interesting. Baltimore, 3.5-point road favorites. Oh, and literally as I'm saying this, the line moves to 3, although 3.5 for Baltimore is plus 102. If you're betting Baltimore, you can also get 3 at minus 119. Obviously, Pittsburgh on the other side of that. Sammy Darts and the Vikes, 6-point favorites at home against the Titans. Atlanta, Denver. This is a really interesting game as well. 2 points favorites for the Broncos who are playing at home. Big NFC West matchup. Seahawks and the Niners. San Fran, 6.5-point favorites. We mentioned that Chiefs-Bills game. Bengals-Chargers, huge tilt for Cincinnati's season. Chargers minus 1.5. And then the Cowboys. Cooper Rush and the Cowboys. 7-point home dogs against the Houston Texans. That is the Monday Nighter. Sunday Nighter is the Bengals and the Chargers. Jake, why don't we start with you? Where are you starting your card for the week?
I'll take you right to the top of the page, Huss. Packers minus 5.5. The more things change, the more they stay the same. It's Packers Bears. Like, we know how this goes. Packers are also coming off the bye. That doesn't hurt by any means. So just looking here on extended rest, Matt LaFleur 7-3 against the spread when favored by 4 or more points. So 70% clip, I don't mind. And then if you look over the last 20 years, the Bears 12-30-1 against the spread against the Packers. This is what the Packers do. Doesn't matter if they're in Chicago or in Green Bay. They beat up on the Bears, and the Bears couldn't be any lower right now. I don't know if this is me taking the cheese. You know, it's a divisional matchup. I get all that. You know, the Bears' defense has been pretty solid. Matt Eberflus is still in the building. Just because they got rid of Shane Waldron calling plays doesn't mean all of a sudden everything's fixed in Chicago. Matt Eberflus is still leading that team right now, and I don't trust anything he's doing right now with how ugly it's been over the last few weeks. So give me the Pack. I think they take care of business this week off the bye and, you know, stay in that race in the NFC.
I was looking at the Pack, too. You mentioned coming off the bye. I mean, they're in a good spot, and the Bears have just been an abject disaster. And I think it really hit ahead last week. I mean, obviously firing the offensive coordinator, but the amount of times Caleb Williams was hit. I mean, the people are now worried about ruining Caleb Williams, and that wasn't a thought that I think we believed it was a possibility earlier on this week. I like this game as well, Jake. I was going to jump on the Packers. Anything under a touchdown in this game I think is good. And I guess we'll see what the Bears are made of. Maybe they do have somewhat of a comeback, but it seems like they're falling apart at the seams. The veteran receivers are not too pleased about everything, and as I say, a lot of it is falling onto the shoulders of the number one pick overall. Patty, where are you at the top of your board?
Well, I'll save a little time on that one. I'm also on the Packers as well. One other stat I wanted to add to it, though. Against the Bears, during Matt LaFleur's tenure as coach, he's 10-0. And a lot of this in the NFL, as the season goes by, just bet the coaches. Like the fact that you're giving me LaFleur off the bye, he had an extra week to prepare for this team. They're going to beat the brakes. They're going to beat the absolute brakes off the Bears. So give me the Packers. I'll take the Packers. Another game that I don't really have too many numbers or stats to go behind, but Browns -1 against the Saints. This is a Jameis Winston revenge game. I was all over the Saints last week. I had the interim coach bounce. I felt like the Falcons, they're a team they're up and then they're down, and then they're up, then they're down. That seemed like a huge look ahead spot for that Falcons team. And I think the coach bump of the Rizzler, that's done. It's over. The shine is off that team. I think the Browns are really starting to turn a corner with Winston. Chubb is getting healthier. The defense is starting to improve as well. So give me the Browns -1 in the Winston revenge game.
I'm sort of in on the end. And as I mentioned, I mean, it's -1, -104, or -110 as a pick'em. Just on the money.
I'm probably going to go money line, but if we have pick spread, but yeah, I think it's a money line play.
Yeah.
No, I think Patty can take money line for the card. I think that makes sense to me. And no sense in taking the point with -110.
Well, exactly, especially if we're thinking about potentially putting that in the partner parlay. We're going to need to get it off an even number anyway. So we'll look for we'll look in at that. Listen, let's get right to it. The main event. Patrick Mahomes is an underdog going to Buffalo to take on the Bills. I would feel better about the Bills in this situation if the Chiefs didn't have the near-death experience that they had last week against the Denver Broncos. And I said that game, my spidey senses were tingling all week going in there. It sort of reminded me of the Christmas game last year where the Chiefs lost at home, which was their last loss to the Raiders. A tough divisional game of a team that's getting up and really playing that game as if it is their Super Bowl. Now, listen, credit to Peyton and the team so far. That wasn't their Super Bowl. They're very much in the playoffs, although the Leo Chenal block definitely complicated that a little bit, was a huge favor to the LA Chargers. Listen, the Bills have beaten the Chiefs before in the regular season. They have had some success. Josh Allen's played really well. But, man, they're banged up right now. Their receiving core is certainly not what it was. And I sort of think that close call last week by the Chiefs is going to have them absolutely locked in and ready to go this week. If the Bills win this game, it certainly won't be devastating for Kansas City. I mean, that win they had last week, they've got a bit of a cushion for the number one seed. However, if the Bills do win, they'll be just one game back and will have the head-to-head tiebreaker. So this actually is a really big game when it comes down to the one seed. Until further notice, though, KC is the team. They have not lost yet this season. We're getting points. We've gone over all year long the numbers when Mahomes is an underdog. And I think they go in and make a statement and get the W. I'm taking the Chiefs +2 in Buffalo. Patty, I know you've got a take on this game. How are you feeling about it? What are you looking for?
Not good. Not feeling good at all. If the Bills had the plus money number in front of them and they were the underdogs, I'd probably feel a lot better. But whenever Patrick Mahomes is an underdog, bad things happen to the favorite. You mentioned, obviously, the Bills are super banged up at a lot of their skill positions. And you look at no Dalton Kincaid, no Keon Coleman. Sounds like Cooper is trying to play. Even if he does play, how healthy he is. This iteration of the Bills, though, they can run the ball. Jimmy Cook, he can ground and pound. They've also got Ray Davis. Josh Allen can turn into Superman and run the ball as well. The only issue is the Chiefs are one of the best run-stopping defenses in the NFL. Just seems like a recipe for disaster. And the biggest thing of them all, Taylor Swift is in Toronto this week. All she has to do is hop in a helicopter or even a quick 2-hour drive down the QEW, and she's going to be at the game this Sunday. So that scares the living crap out of me even more. So I do not feel good about this game. But at the same time, I said it to Matt, if they lose, obviously it's going to be crushing. It's going to be deflating because now you lose to the Texans, you lose to the Ravens, and you lose to the Chiefs. The 3 measuring tape games that you had on the slate so far this year, it is really challenging and is real deflating. But as I say with this team, as I say with the Toronto Maple Leafs, I really don't care what happens in the regular season. Until you can prove you can get over the hump in the playoffs, as long as you get there, that's all that matters. So it's a little bit of a twofold on that thing, but I don't know. The Chiefs, just Patrick Mahomes is an underdog. It's never a good thing.
Jake, you're the one, you're Switzerland in this conversation. You are not a Chiefs or a Bills guy. What is your unbiased opinion on this one?
My unbiased opinion is the Chiefs are on my card, Huss, as you probably could have expected. 11-3 is Mahomes' record against, straight up as an underdog. 12-1-1 against the spread. Although the one against the spread loss did come at the hands of Josh Allen and the Bills. I think the light for the Bills here is even if you do lose to the Chiefs, when it really matters is in the playoffs. And you're likely going to get that chance again. Like, I don't see the Bills falling off the face of the earth if they lose to the Chiefs this week at home. Yes, it'll hurt. You know, you might not end up in a position you want by the end of the regular season, but I think you'll get your chance again if you are the Buffalo Bills. I cannot fade Patrick Mahomes as an underdog. The numbers don't lie. Like, we're not talking about 2 or 3 games with him as an underdog. We're up to like 14 games, and he's covered in 12 of them. He's won 11 of them. So I'm probably playing at money line, but as for the picks, I'll take the +2 with Mahomes, and we'll see how it goes. I'm not going to be upset if the Bills win this week because Mahomes is an underdog. There's not much more to say outside of that.
We and listen, the fact that we've got the Cleveland and the Chiefs, maybe we look at a little bit of a money line parlay in addition to a spread parlay for it. Jake, well, you mentioned you're on the Chiefs. Pat, what else is on your card of the games that we haven't touched?
A team that I've been fading a lot as of late, and I can't believe I'm going to ride with them, but at the same time I can because they're going up against one of the laughing stocks in the NFL in the Cowboys. Give me the Texans -7.5. The Cowboys are a mess. They're always a mess. They're always a sideshow. But this year, they're even bigger of a dumpster fire. This year, they're even funnier. Normally, they're losing in heartbreaking fashion. This year, they're just getting their asses handed to them. And as much as we like to troll Dak, and as much as we like to say he's overrated and not worth that money, this team is significantly worse with Cooper Rush under center. Or if
threw
they
for
go with
49 yards last week.
Embarrassing. 13 for 23. So bad. Not only that do they have to go against Texans team, they also have to go up against their biggest opponent this year, and that's that glass window inside Jerry's world, the Sun. They are 0-4 against the spread and straight up at home. When have you ever seen a Cowboys team be this bad at home? But on the flip side, the Texans desperately need this. They need this bad. Over the last 2 weeks, they get embarrassed by a very, very bad Jets team on Halloween, and then they blow a huge 23-7 lead against the Lions. Nico Collins is back, and when he's in the lineup, this is a good team. They're 4-1 with Collins in the lineup. They're 2-3 when he's not in there. So Texans need this bad. The Cowboys will continue to be a joke. 7.5. I hate the hook. I hate it. But
You don't need the hook now. It's Coolbet now. It's 7. Just straight up 7. At minus 110.
I love it. It makes me feel a lot better, but I have a feeling I'm not going to need that hook. I think this could be a huge blowout.
And again, that is the Monday nighter. Oh my God, Cowboys in primetime again, just what the world needs to see. So maybe we'll keep that off the parlays for Sunday, but still in the pick. The Sunday nighter, fascinating game, Jake. Bengals at Chargers. And we were kind of going through the path to the playoffs for Cincinnati. Coming off, just an unbelievable game that they fell just short against the Ravens. They're going to have a little bit of extra rest with the short week, the previous week, and going in to take on Justin Herbert and the Chargers, who have been playing some really good football. Harbaugh's having fun. They're winning games again, and they are on their way to being a much more, I think, competitive team when we start talking playoffs. And what happened with Denver last week, combined with their win, has really put them in somewhat of a driver's seat for a wild card right now in the AFC. That being said, I am riding with Joe Burrow right now. Joe Burrow is so clutch. This is, for the most part, they're kind of in must-win games for the next little while. We're looking at the Bengals getting 1.5 right now. But I will offer this one up as a potential member of a money line parlay right now, because I think the Bengals go in, find a way to get it done. Should have T. Higgins back. And despite the fact that he's going to be gone next season, right now, they can still salvage this year. They've got a very soft schedule, but they got to get to those games. This is a tougher one. I do think that Joe Burrow finds a way to get it done, though, on the road.
Yeah, it's one of those games. It was a stay away for me because my heart is just so torn. I love Joe Burrow. I love the way he competes. I loved him at LSU, and coming into the league, it's been a great story. Hasn't been a great season for them, but there's still a chance. I do have a Bengals Super Bowl ticket in my pocket. I thought I was going to get lucky after those 2 losses this season. They got an uphill battle. It starts with this game. But I also love the Chargers under Harbaugh. They're fun to watch. Yeah. They can drive the ball down your throat. Herbert's getting a little bit more comfortable, throwing the ball out of play action. It's really clean the way they play football, and the defense has been solid as well. So, it's one of those ones I think I'm gonna bet the game. I don't know how I'm gonna bet it just yet, but it just to stay away in terms of a spread pick for me. So
I didn't stay away. I wanted to stay away. You bring up so many great points, Jake. I have wanted to like Harbaugh for so long, but I couldn't because he's at Michigan, and I hate Michigan with a burning passion. Now he's on the Chargers, a team that, really doesn't – I know they're in the same conference, but not a rival of the Buffalo Bills. So I love what they've done. Herbert looks like he's finally maybe going to be that quarterback that we all expected him to be, but this is do or die time for the Bengals, and Joe Burrow has done just about everything to keep this team alive. Backs against the wall. I think the Bengals are going to be able to find a way here, and I think they come out with a win. And like you, I also have a future in my pocket. It's a Joe Burrow MVP, and if I want that to have any chance to cash, they need a victory here. They need to get into the playoffs, and I think that could be alive, but it all starts with this game against the Chargers, and I think the Bengals can do it. Let's not forget, T. Higgins expected to play as well, so another weapon for Joe Burrow to throw to.
And he's such a difference maker for them. It opens up so much more for Jamar Chase and the guys in the backfield. So anyways, I like that one, and I think we can maybe look at Cincy as part of a money line play. One of the other games that I really do like, and I think maybe we're getting a better number because of what happened on Monday night, is the Rams at -4.5 against the Patriots. I know New England just beat Chicago, but are we upping New England stock right now, or are we just looking at the stench coming out of the Windy City going, man, are the Bears bad? I thought that the Rams were less than their best on the Monday nighter, and credit to Miami for going in and getting that done. But it really is a costly loss, and they have to be laser focused on taking care of their business against teams like the New England Patriots. I don't love the spot coming off the Monday nighter, traveling to the East, playing an early game. but I think the Rams are just in another weight class than New England is, at least right now. And probably not one of my favorite ones, but I think I will take the 4.5, and I'll lay it with the Rams on the road. What do you guys think about that one?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right on there, Huss. It's one of those games where, you look back at that Monday nighter with the Dolphins, and the Rams were able to drive the football. They just couldn't finish a drive.
Mm-hmm.
Like right when they got in range, it was a bad sack or a bad penalty that kind of, blew up a couple drives for them. I think, this is a week they clean that up a little bit against a team like New England who, they're not all of a sudden a good football team because they beat the Bears. Like, that means really nothing. So I think you're onto something here, Us. I did look at them. Obviously, I don't really like betting against my team, so it was kind of just another stay-away option for me. But I'm looking here. It says bet West Coast road teams traveling east. Since 2019, teams coming from west to east, 85, 51, and 4. So, I mean, I'm just trying to figure out if that's straight up or against the spread. But nonetheless, like, teams win coming to the East Coast. Just because it's east to west, west to east, I don't think you should be too concerned. I like the pick with the Rams.
Patty, what about you? You got any feelings? What games haven't we touched on? Colts, Jets, Vikings, Titans, Seahawks, Niners.
Quickly on the game you guys just talked about, I'm a little reluctant. I just feel like I'm so emotionally and financially tied to the Rams. I stayed away with it just because I need them to make the playoffs and cash that over on their wins. 4.5, a little bit scary, but come kickoff, I'll probably end up betting that. Some of the other games that we didn't touch on that, am I crazy here for thinking the Dolphins at 7.5? Like, that seems like a big number, but like, they're now starting to turn the corner, and the Raiders are really bad. Like, I feel like this is where the Dolphins, this part of the year, start to show some life and maybe make a push for the playoffs. I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe I'm just buying into that Monday nighter where they looked pretty good. The defense looked a lot better than what they've shown in the past. I still don't think they're a team that you're afraid to play in if they do make the playoffs, but just seeing that number, I'm thinking like they're begging us to take the Raiders, but I think that it's actually really the Dolphins who are the better team. I don't know. Colts, Jets, under 44.5. That's screaming at me in the face. Both these teams stink. We're seeing Richardson back under center. The Jets, just when you thought things couldn't get worse, it got worse last week, getting killed by the Cardinals. So I'm leaning maybe under 44.5 in that game as well.
The one other game that I have on my card that I haven't thrown out there is Denver at home to Atlanta. Listen, I'm not going to put too much into Atlanta losing the way they did last week to the Saints. Those teams hate each other. That's a huge game for the New Orleans. You mentioned the new coach bump, but Atlanta's played like these nail-biting close games all season long. They're now going on the road to take on a team that has, a big boy operation on the defensive side of the football. And I do think that Bo Nix continues to get better. I certainly like the coaching from Sean Payton on the Denver side of things. And I think they come back knowing they were so damn close against the Chiefs last week. How they respond to this, I think, is going to be key. But I do think they'll respond positively, realizing that there's a lot of good things that they can take out of that game and get ready to get a big win, because they have to have it. They really let one slide, obviously, on the block kick. Denver right now is at 2-point favorite right now on the Broncos. So I've got Denver in there as well. Jake, thoughts on the Broncos there? And then I want to get your guys' thoughts with game we have not touched on. Ravens, Steelers, maybe the best rivalry year over year in the last 15 years in the NFL. And 3.5 right now seems to be the line for the Ravens. Obviously, Mike Tomlin's had this great season. But, Jake, quickly, Broncos, what do you think? And then let's get into Baltimore-Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I don't mind it. Broncos at home. I think they know they could have beat the Chiefs last week. That's something to motivate you onto this week. Like you said with the Falcons, they're so you never have a great faith that the Falcons are going to win a football game. They're always in it right to the end, and it could go either way. I don't mind it. I like the Broncos at home. And you mentioned Ravens, Steelers. Listen, Huss, it's on my card. Steelers plus 3.5. We don't fade Mike Tomlin as a dog. We know that. And I have some stats here. Let's go through them quickly. Over the last 20 years, the underdog in Ravens Steelers, 28-10-3. When the line is 3 or more points, the underdog is 22-4-3 against the spread in this series. Yes. In the regular season, the underdog is 23-6-3 when it's Tomlin versus Harbaugh. And then I already mentioned Tomlin, 62-35-3 against the spread as an underdog with 52 straight up wins. Like, this guy goes in and he wins football games as an underdog. He doesn't just cover, he wins. Like, if you're betting this game and you're not betting the underdog, I don't know. Like, the stats just, they sell themselves. And I don't know if it's me taking the cheese. Like, this is one of those games that the Ravens come out and dominate, but this is the series. Like, we have a great slate. Not to kind of open it back up, but 1 o'clock we get, Ravens Steelers. 4 o'clock we get Chiefs Bills, and then we got a great Sunday nighter and a Monday nighter. But yeah, I'm on the Steelers. Huss. I've learned my lesson with Tomlin.
You know what? We talked about this with Matt on Wednesday, and he's a Ravens fan, and he's even really scared for this game. I talked to him about it a few weeks ago when I picked the Browns to cover against the Ravens, and he said, this is not a bad bet at all. Like, he laid it out perfectly, and sure enough, that's what happened. He noted that, Lamar has struggled against the Steelers, and I did a little bit of digging before the show. I'll bring him up again. He's 1-3 against the Steelers and 17-5 against every other opponent in the AFC North. Pittsburgh is the only team against that he's thrown more receptions than touchdowns. 7 interceptions, 4 passing touchdowns. Tomlin has the book on him. Tomlin has been able to figure this guy out, and it was a stay away on my card. But after Jake lays it out, after rereading the stats that I brought up on Wednesday, I think I have to trust the data and go with the Steelers here. I might be kicking myself for taking the cheese, but I'm going to go with the Steelers, man.
I love it, and I think that is a very nice candidate to be jumping on a bit of a partner parlay. All right, let's bang these out here, fellas. We could definitely do a point spread ticket and a money line play.
I already started to build it, Huss. I think money line play, if you guys are good with this, I think it makes sense. Bengals, Browns, Broncos, the 3 Bs. Get them all in the money line. Good number. It's plus 594 if you like those 3.
Bengals, you know what?
Browns, Broncos.
I mean, the other game that I was thinking about is Kansas City. But why don't we do that? Let's go with the Bengals, the Browns, the Broncos for a money line play. And then I can be my superstitious self and not be so worried about the Chiefs game, and we'll hit that individually.
I know he
exactly
understands Mahomes is the dog, but I know he's not going to want that on the
You got it right, even though I know it's a winning bet.
All right, so Bengals, Browns, Broncos. That's the money line play. Let's get to the point spread ticket now. I mean, I think we're all in agreement. We can't not have Pittsburgh plus 3.5 on this ticket.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, especially with the hook. Like, too good to be true, maybe, but I don't know. I love it.
We started with Green Bay at minus 5.5. I have no issues taking the Packers right now. I think them coming off the bye, jumping on a Bears team that is just in disarray right now, certainly works. What do we think of the Packers there for the second pick on this one?
I think it's all on our cards. I think it's a no-brainer. We got to do it.
Yeah, I know it wasn't on your official card, Huss, but I think you said you thought about it, so I think it's the right play there for sure.
Listen, it was right there at the top of the list. All right, so we've got Pittsburgh, we've got Green Bay.
Rams is the other possibility, maybe. Rams. Who else did you have, Patty?
I had Texans.
I'll be honest. I didn't get to this pick. I didn't want to get to it. I had the Cowboys on my card.
And it's Monday.
So it's not there.
And it's Monday.
Yeah, it's Monday. You're right.
We just stay away from that.
The other ones, all my other ones are all small numbers, and 2 of them are already on the money line anyways with the Bengals and the Browns. So I think my picks are all out. I think we got to go with
Let's do
Something
Rams.
else.
Rams.
I'm good with Rams.
I'm okay
Rams.
with Rams.
Rams were that next tier. It was close, but I stayed away.
Right on. Okay, so Jake, here we go. The blocked partner parlay point spread ticket is Pittsburgh plus 3.5, Green Bay minus 5.5, and Rams minus 4.5. And then we also have a money line banger with the Bengals, with the Browns, and the Broncos all to win. And we'll throw those up in the combo cards or the exclusives, and it should be good. By the way, we are doing some additional content tomorrow from Grey Cup. And I have a feeling that assuming that we have touchdown scorer props by then, we'll probably get into that. I might fire something out on socials as well. So if you're dialed in and want more on the Grey Cup, make sure you're following me at Hustlerama, and we'll bang some things out. But this is actually perfect. We'll be investing in the Chiefs on the road. We've got 2 nice parlays. And I'm really hoping that the Bombers can take care of business in spectacular fashion with no stress, and can kind of pay attention to these NFL games as well while we're at BC Place, because we're gonna be getting the second half of Chiefs Bills just as we kick off the game. But it should be great, guys. Next year, a year from today, Grey Cup in Winnipeg. We need the squad together.
Yes, no doubt.
Hopefully Dusty's back healthy by then. It should be good.
Huss, you were mentioning touchdown scores. Do we have a house callers for the week? And we never got to it, but I do have a pick.
Okay.
I got a pick too.
Okay, you guys go with yours, and then I will come up with one.
Jake, you go first.
Okay, Patty talked about this game being an under, but this team's been getting gashed on the ground. I was on him last week with James Conner against the Jets. I'm taking Jonathan Taylor against the Jets. I just think this team gets gashed. I'm hoping it's not a situation where Richardson steals one from him, but I'm going to go with Taylor minus 120.
Nicely done. Patty?
I'm going to go with Amon-Ra St. Brown. The guy cannot stop scoring touchdowns. I think we talked about how the line, well, we didn't even talk about it, but Jake, I think it was you and I when we were in the green room. 13.5 points. A lot of people, that's too many points. That's too many points. The last time we talked about that with the Lions, they beat the absolute brakes off the Titans. I think the Lions do it again. So give me St. Brown in the air, because I always, whenever I bet Gibbs or Montgomery, I pick the wrong guy. So let's go with their best receiver in St. Brown.
All right. You know what? We've kept the Chiefs off of the parlays, but we're going to include the Chiefs on this one. Kareem Hunt, minus 125.
Yep.
He's just been so damn good since he rejoined the club right now. Obviously, Pacheco's going to be coming back, wants to continue to show that he can be a reliable guy, and I love the number. I mean, at minus 125. He's the unquestioning guy on the goal line and can get in a bunch of different ways. So give me Kareem Hunt. So Hunt, ASB, and Jonathan Taylor. A little 3-way house callers for
we're due
today.
For one here. I think 3 is a perfect number for this week.
Love it, guys. All right, listen, have a great weekend. Let's get these up in the exclusives. We'll talk about them a little bit more on WST today, as well as Grey Cup odds. But I love the money line parlay. I like the point spread. I like the house callers. Good things happen in 3s. 3 picks, 3 bets overall. Let's just go bang, bang, bang. And of course, still waiting on this Grey Cup game, because some big Bombers futures. We got the radio last night for the MOP. Now it's time to finish the job. Guys, have a great weekend, and we'll stay in touch on the group chat and get you some of the sights and sounds of Vancouver with what should be a very, very fun weekend.
Enjoy, Huss.
Awesome. Thanks, Huss.
Take it easy, fellas. All right, we'll throw it back to Edmonton Sports Talk as their programming continues. And if you want more from the Grey Cup, join us in about 5 minutes coming up on Winnipeg Sports Talk over there. Have a great weekend, everyone, and may the winners be yours.